Let's go ahead and get back to our guest, Kimberly. Again, thank you so much for being here tonight and spending time with us.
Oh, thank you. It's my pleasure, Pat.
We were talking again a little bit before the break, before the news break. We were talking about the regression therapy and so many people that go through it, and those deeply hidden things, and how traumatic some things can be, and again the psyche kind of hiding things. And then, as you mentioned, a lot of times with the regression hypnotherapy, you may not get to the exact answer or the exact thing, but things that surround it, events that surround maybe something bigger. Now, are you a regression therapist yourself?
I do past life regression. Yes, I restrict regression therapy to past life regression because I don't believe in doing regression to pull up people's memories from this life, but we will look at past life things. And I tell people you don't even have to believe in past life regression because there are four theories, if you will. One is if you believe in reincarnation, it's simply you're tapping into a past life. The second is a widely accepted term and belief in psychology is universal consciousness, universal unconsciousness. Carl Gustav Jung is the one who coined the term, but that all human experiences are stored somewhere because you cannot destroy energy. So that's another theory. The third theory is DNA memory. So if you're having a memory of, a Viking crossing the ocean, that perhaps that is something that is stored on your DNA because of a great-great-great-great-great-great-grandfather, 2 times removed. Who knows? We don't know what our DNA stores. And finally, for my really left brain people who want to experience it, I tell them the bottom line is your creative consciousness works in visual metaphor. When you dream, you're not dreaming the written word. When you're daydreaming, you're not daydreaming the written word. When you think about Christmas or a holiday and you're having those memories, it is a visual metaphor. And I love the use of past life regression to help people open up creative space in this life. And it has helped people heal things as well.
Gotcha. You want to take another call?
Sure.
All right. Caller, good morning. Welcome to K-Talk. You're on with Kimberly Rinaldi.
Hi, Kimberly and Pat.
How are you?
Michael here. Yes, you just went right into the area that I wanted to talk about. You were talking about genetic memories?
Yes.
And that's where the conflict, the spirit body, which is completely separate than the genetic body. And we're talking about you, the emptiness or the singularity of the being, and as opposed to light and the physical universe. The spirit body is faster than the speed of light. It can travel through the universe instantaneously, whereas you can't do that with the physical body. It's confined to a planet and genetics. Those two are where the subconscious conflict occurs. Is between and both exist, but they are complete opposite. Do you understand what I mean?
You're going quantum on me, aren't you?
Yeah.
I do have a grasp of it. Just real simply, in the way I explain to people, quantum physics and metaphysics we're now starting to find are the same side of the same coin. We've just been looking at them from different angles. And the human experience is such a limiting experience. And I had someone probably 10 or 12 years ago explain to me that we're living all of these experiences at one time, that really it isn't a past life, it's a current life, but we're limiting it by the consciousness that we are currently embracing.
Which is
and I remember walking out of that lecture going, geez, my head hurts. That's way too much for me to comprehend. And then I've done
That's
some
our true
conferences.
being, though. Is the spirit being is who we really are,
Right.
From the beginning of time.
Right.
Whereas the physical being is just a momentary.
It's a momentary
instant of
expression.
Now, yeah,
Yeah,
I like that word you use, effortless.
Yeah.
This reality, we can either make it effortless or we can have a real hard time with it.
Right.
That's yeah. You already took off where I was going there, so that was pretty synchronous with my topic there. Thank you. Good talk to you, Tracy and Pat.
Okay, have a good night. Thank you for calling in.
Thanks.
It's talk about maybe mind over matter, Kimberly. Again, getting back to the power of the mind, the power of the spirit, the power of the soul, the essence, whatever we want to call it. How I think we're discovering as humans, we're discovering that this is all kind of interweaved and intertangled.
Let me go quantum on you for a minute.
Go ahead.
Can I blow your mind a little bit if I can?
Go ahead.
Do you have any allergies?
Yes.
Anything that you want to share in particular?
Mold spore.
Okay.
When it gets really, I'm a Chicago native, and of course we've got the high humidity back there. When I moved out here, I kind of figured, well, but mold spore tends to be a problem. So when it gets before storms come up, usually spring especially, man, it tears me up.
Can I tell you that you're not allergic, and can you be comfortable holding on to that thought for a minute?
Sure.
Okay. I had at one point what would be described as an anaphylaxis-like reaction to shellfish. I had a severe allergy. Throat swelling, hives on my face. I would end up in the hospital. And in the work I do, I understand, here's the theory, and I'm going to explain it. If it's toxic to one, it's toxic to all. Now, mold spores are not toxic to everybody. Shellfish, not toxic to everybody. So what's an allergy? An allergy is your body telling you there's something in your environment that is hazardous to you. There is something dangerous in your environment. I ended up eliminating my shellfish allergy as well as 99% of my allergies over about a 2-month period, working with an acupuncturist, doing neurolinguistic programming, EFT, and journaling. And what came up was one night at about 2 in the morning, I'm doing the emotional freedom technique, which is the tapping and the talking. What came up is I'm tapping, and I'm having an asthmatic reaction, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to die at that point, but I wasn't going to use my inhaler. And I was actually tapping on, even though I'll be dead in 5 minutes and none of this is going to matter, I tapped out, an allergic response is something, my body telling me there's something unsafe in my environment. And while I was tapping, I had a breakthrough, because what came out next was, even though I've never been safe in my own home, and I thought, what the hell? I'm a grown-up. I own my own home. I'm safe in my house. I have an alarm system and, cameras and the whole bit. And then the next thing was, even though I've never been safe in my own body. And it went back to my childhood. And the next day is when all of these allergies, we started working on them one at a time.
Wow.
I can eat shellfish.
Well, that's because, I actually have a good friend of mine who lives in Chicago who developed, here, let me throw this out at you, Kimberly.
Yeah.
He had been a shellfish, not a connoisseur, but what he used to call himself is a common sewer, because he loved every type of shellfish out there. A friend of mine named Jeff Singleton. Yeah. And one day him and his wife went out to dinner and had shrimp pasta, and he got 2 or 3 shrimps down, and all of a sudden he felt like, he said the description he could call it is, he felt like somebody was shoving golf balls down his throat. Yep. His throat swelled so huge they had to call 911, and paramedic, came and get him out, and he almost didn't make it to the hospital. And of course now he's, he won't whenever he goes out to dinner, I mean, he literally quizzes the waiter to death before he touches it or even puts a fork to it, because it was such a traumatic thing that happened for him, and he was diagnosed with shellfish allergy.
Which a doctor will now tell him, well, you can develop allergies at any time.
Right.
But they don't tell you you can also get rid of them at any time. And
So,
I actually went back to my allergist after going through all of these, and my allergist and my primary care physician actually send me patients who they can't do anything medically with, and they come to the understanding that this is all in their heads, if you will. But if the theory is if it's toxic to one, it should be toxic to all, and if it's not, it's your body's over-response to a circumstance, usually an emotional circumstance, and it may not even be conscious. It may not even be of this lifetime.
So how do you get rid of that? I mean, so in my case, I have a horrific time with the mold spore. And like you said, with the things you've encountered, and then to try to go back and delve back into these things, there's obviously a lot of apprehension and fear that you're going to have the same thing happen again.
Well, and what I do is for myself, and again, this is not medical advice. I have to be very careful about how this is worded.
Sure.
What I do for myself is, one of the things I used to have an allergy to was raw tomatoes. I would get like a rosacea rash on my face. So it wasn't a really bad, life-threatening one. So I cut up a raw tomato, I took a bite, and I started doing EFT, which is emotional freedom technique based on acupuncture meridians. And as I was tapping, I was doing the neuro-linguistic programming part of it, the talk, and it was, if this is toxic to one, it should be toxic to all, or I can choose to allow my body to assimilate, absorb, and process all of the healthy lutein, all of the healthy vitamins and nutrients from this, and understand that I am safe in this moment. And that was, just part of the conversation that I had. Right. I can eat tomatoes now. I actually worked with my sister who had a really significant allergy to eggs, and she can eat eggs now. I made a dandelion green salad, and we didn't know my husband was going to have a reaction to that, and within 5 minutes he was over his reaction.
Wow.
So understand that if it's not toxic to all, there is potential for you to release that allergy.
Interesting. Very, very interesting.
And I've seen, in my own practice, I've seen clients heal from stage 3 and 4 carcinomas in as little as 24 hours and as much as 30 days.
It is interesting, but stuff like that, and like you said, you're not a doctor, and
right.
And as I always tell people, if you've got something going on, I think that people need to look into the possibilities, and there are alternatives out there, but don't stop taking your meds or nothing like that.
Right, and I don't advocate that.
Right.
I came from Western medicine. I spent 20 years running healthcare, emergency, and urgent care services. So I'm very clear on what I've done for me, and I tell people I don't take aspirin at this point. I don't take so much as a single aspirin. I'm going on 10 years without any medication. I've reversed diabetes, reversed almost all of my allergies, reversed rheumatoid arthritis, just from utilizing these tools for myself.
And people need to be open about that and investigate these things.
Absolutely. Your body, the way I explain it is, your body, whatever the circumstance is, even if it's a cancer, even if it's a metastatic cancer, and I highly recommend Anita Morjani's Dying to Be Me, because she was metastatic and she died and came back, and 2 weeks later was essentially cancer-free. But even if it's a metastatic cancer, you have a limited number of cells that are saying cancer. You have an unlimited number of cells that are programmed for perfect health. They outnumber all of those other ill cells. If you can get yourself out of your belief system, if you can open up to a peaceful place, if you can make some changes in your life, you can really change your health.
Yeah. big pharmaceutical sure doesn't like hearing stuff like that, though, you know?
No, they don't. And I was part of that process for 20 years, and I really bought into it because that's where I was. I'm at a point now where, meditation and all these wonderful tools that I teach and I advocate for, there isn't any money in it for Big Pharma.
Right.
And it's unfortunate, and I think one of the saddest things I ever saw was the ability for pharmaceutical companies to go out and market direct to people through media. It just became an unfortunate thing in healthcare.
Do you? It seems like big pharmaceutical, because it's such a massive money machine. All they keep doing is turning out more and more and more drugs. I believe. I will say this. I will go on the record and say that I believe there are some fascinating drugs out there that have saved people's lives as well.
Oh, absolutely.
But I think that we have a lot of curable diseases that can be cured, and people are dying every day, and above dying, suffering, terrible suffering. I've had several friends and family members over the years that have died of cancer and went horribly. And that is where, if there truly is that cure out there, whatever that cure may be, so people don't have to experience the horrificness of these diseases.
Right. And I tell people, even with me advocating this and saying I don't take so much as an aspirin. Now, if I fall down a flight of stairs tomorrow and there's a bone sticking out, don't ask me to tap. Don't ask me to meditate.
Right.
Call 911.
Get to the emergency room.
Yeah, I'm going to want really strong pain meds, and I'm going to want the best orthopedic surgeon available.
Right.
But I think knowing your body, really looking at what we deem alternative therapies, and they're really not alternative. These were original therapies. Western medicine's only been around a couple hundred years. The original therapies were nutrition. They were mind therapies. Those, now we're calling them alternative. Those were the original therapies. Let's go back to that first when we can.
Look at the more simplistic stuff.
Right. Yeah, that's a real hot ticket item for me.
Now, you do healing retreats, is that correct?
Correct.
Tell us about that.
I do women's healing retreats twice a year. West Coast in May, East Coast it was November. I think we moved it to October this year. And it is a small group of women, and they have to go through a process where we identify an area in their life that they really want to heal and turn around. And it's either business, relationship, or healing of past hurts. And in the time we work together, I guarantee breakthrough. It is a very small, we call high-end nurturing retreat. We always end the last day. I've been to too many retreats where you end the last day and you're absolutely wiped out emotionally and physically. Mm-hmm. We end the last day in a spa. There's either a massage or a facial, something booked, and you're pampered, and I call it fluffed and folded and very well taken care of. But our goal is to really help women find their power, because honestly, there are so many women out there, and I was one who I was afraid to show how powerful I was as a human being, because I was taught, as a woman, you leave the last cookie on the plate, you wait until everybody else has been served, you take care of everybody else first. I'm here to say, when you stand up as a woman and you say, no, me first, you have more to give other people.
Right. So your retreats kind of help people, help women especially, get out of the shell. Get out of
and heal one area of their life that they just are stuck in. And we eliminate the negative emotions around it. We eliminate the limiting beliefs around it. They leave with between 8 and 10 actionable tools that they can then apply to the other areas of their life. I'm all about empowerment. I tell people, I don't want to be working with you for the next 3 years. I want to teach you this stuff, and I want you to go out and do it.
Right, exactly. Well, that's give them the roadmap and point them in the direction, give them the tools to get down the road, and they'll get there if they want to.
Exactly.
Do you get a lot of people that, I mean, kind of a weird question for you, Kimberly, but do you get a lot of people that come in that have maybe high expectations? Do you get some that have high expectations that come in, they go through your programs, they walk away feeling good, and it's made a change? Then do you have some of the, I guess what we'll call the debunkers, the ones that come in and well, here, I'll go through it, I'll pay the money, I'll do whatever, but I know you're not going to do nothing for me?
In two areas, yes. One of them is, and I love it when they try and play Stump the Psychic. Number one, if you're going to waste your money on that, you're not going to waste my time. So I don't play Stump the Psychic with clients. It's like, if you're here for a reading, great. If not, let's apply your money to something else and let's do something else. The other is people who come to me for intuitive development training or psychic development, because I really do teach and I really do believe each one of us has these abilities. Now, like a baseball player, like a chef, like an opera singer, a professional ball player came in with a certain skill set that was nurtured. An opera singer came in with a certain skill set that was nurtured. And, a great chef came in with a certain skill set that was nurtured. I came in and my skill set happened to be talking to dead people and being able to help people see past what's going on in their lives at the moment. But if I studied under a great chef, I could become a darn good one.
Right.
If I studied with the right coaches, I probably could. I don't know that I'd make major leagues, but I'd be a darn good ball player. And if I studied with a vocal coach, I may not make operatic, quality, but I could probably get up there and belt out a couple of good songs.
Sure.
So if you didn't come in with this skill set, I have actionable tools that teach you how to develop your intuition, how to actually do psychic readings, and how to move into mediumship and identify energy. So in that respect, I get a lot of people who will come and say, well, I came with Sally and I just came to have a good time. Some of them are out there actually working as psychics and mediums now.
Do you think that we all have psychic abilities?
Oh yeah, each and every one of us. That's part of our DNA makeup. That is part of our spiritual makeup. Because
and I guess it's about discovery, but for me, the closest thing I would say that I've come to any sort of psychic experience or psychic, I don't want to use the word phenomenon, but psychic experience would be maybe a good case of deja vu, and that's about it for me.
Mm-hmm.
But
have you given yourself permission to?
I guess.
It is truly free will based. Couple of things. Number one, free will. Number two, meditation is a really key component in this. It's getting into that quiet space and learning to listen to the cues within your body. And understanding when I'm talking to spirit, whether it's a departed loved one or an angel, the voices I'm hearing very often sound like my own voices in my head. Now, the difference is if I'm asking what time it is and I'm, what time is it, and I'm getting a pause, 2, 3, 4, and then I get the time, that's my consciousness. But if I'm asking what time is it and I get to what and I hear the time, that's spirit, because thought transmits faster than we can even think it. So I have tools that help people develop these skill sets. They're actionable exercises that actually, like I said, some people, a good handful of people have come through my training programs with, I'm here with Sally, I thought this would be fun, but I don't think I'm psychic, and now they're out there doing professional readings.
How do you, I guess my question, though, Kimberly, is how do you know whether it's a psychic ability or it's just your subconscious talking to yourself?
Well,
because that, Because I think that's probably what a lot of people, people that have not had a psychic experience, like myself, I don't believe that I've ever had one.
Mm-hmm.
And I know Carol always talks about, again, she apologizes she's not here tonight, but she's really gone through a lot of meditation. She's taken a handful of meditation classes, and for her, it's done her wonders. I don't know if she feels that she has any psychic abilities, but she knows that at least for her own peace of mind, she's been able to calm down and be more, positive and have more positive energy.
And honestly, and again, I go back to the meditation. When you are meditating on a regular basis and you're comfortable with that space, what I call those whispers, those little psychic rumblings and mumblings and whispers, it's not that they become more prevalent, it's just that you're quieter and you can hear them. And what will eventually start happening is, and some of the things that I teach, is to play games. Start making predictions. Start looking at things and playing with this energy, and you're going to start to see things happen that you can't explain, because it wasn't conscious information that was available to you. And I tell people all the time, I apologize for the language. I tell people all the time, the stuff I come up with, I couldn't have pulled it out of my butt if I tried.
Right.
I couldn't make it up if I tried. And everything from missing persons to one of my favorite stories. I did a reading with a client several years ago, and I read for her about once a year. And in this particular reading, I kept getting this woman who's telling me she's her grandmother. And I said, I have your grandmother here with me. And she goes, no, my grandma's alive. I said, no, this woman's insisting she's your grandmother. And she goes, no, my grandma's alive. And I said, I've got this blonde woman. Oh, stop. I'm Hawaiian. There are no blondes in our family. And I'm like, no, this woman is she's not going anywhere. She's telling me she's your grandmother. She's like, no. We're all olive complected. We all have dark black hair. I said, she's got her hair. I said, the only way I can describe it, I think it's a coronet braid. And it looks like a crown wrapped around her head, but it's a braid. And this client takes this gasping breath on the phone. And I said, what's the matter? And she goes, I have my hair like that right now.
Wow.
I said, this woman's nodding her head. And she said, I got up this morning. She goes, I never braid my hair. She said, I was in the bathroom, and I thought, what would it look like if I braided my hair? I said, this woman is nodding her head. She's got her hand on your shoulder right now. She was whispering in your ear. She said, once I got the braid, she goes, I thought, I wonder how it would look like a crown. She says, I have my hair pinned like that right now. I said, this is your validation. Please write down everything I'm going to tell you. I gave her some names and a city in Minnesota. Long story short, we started the conversation. She was an only child. 2 weeks later, she had 8 siblings.
Really?
Yeah, it was her grandmother, her maternal grandmother. She was not told the circumstances of her birth, but essentially her mother had given her up to her father and left Hawaii, came back to the States, and had been married 5 times. Mom just wasn't someone who could be pinned down, and had 9 children totaling, counting her. She was the oldest. But like I said, 2 weeks later, she had 8 siblings. And again, I couldn't have made that up. This was not in her consciousness. It was not, but the fact that she had what she said was this thought, I wonder what my hair would look like. This was the grandmother influencing her thought process, whispering in her ear, giving her that little bit of information.
Wow. All right, everybody, welcome back to Fringe Radio. Our guest tonight is Kimberly Rinaldi. Again, Kimberly, thank you so much for joining us here and talking about all your work.
Well, Pat, it has been my pleasure. I appreciate you having me.
It is so interesting. I'm trying to think where what you were talking about right before we went into our commercial break. I didn't have my pen and pencil tonight.
And now I've drawn a blank since we were talking. What were we talking about? Well, we were talking about intuitive development, psychic development.
Yes.
That's right. And yes, I believe we all have those abilities.
Okay, I've got some questions for you. All right, so my listeners,
Absolutely.
our listeners, don't hang me. Our friend Durr, who's on the East Coast, writes in, says, Kimberly, do you have a spirit guide, and does she have a spirit guide, and does she have a higher power guiding?
Yes and yes. I have many spirit guides, as do most of us, and I have angels that I work with, and I work with whether you're going to call God, Creator, Universe, the creative power that is where we all come from. I was raised Catholic, so the word God comes very comfortably to me. But our understanding of what this is on this side is so very limited.
Okay. Do you, as a medium, do you see other people's spirit guides?
I do. I often do. One of the things that I do when I'm working with interns and other students of mine is I help them define their relationships with their guides, because we have guides for different things. So,
do you think our spirit guides change? I guess this is my question. Do you think that they change periodically or from time to time? And can a spirit guide, and I've heard this from a couple of different psychics that we've actually had on the show here in the studio, that they don't necessarily have to be somebody even close in your life. They don't have to be a passed-on relative or a passed-on friend.
And more often than not, they are people we know from the other side, not necessarily from this side. And yes, they can change. My dad worked with me in my mediumship work for 5 years. And then he told me he would be stepping away. I was one to fight it, and I got a new guide who helped me develop other aspects of my skill set. And I work with angels for other things, and other guides have stepped in throughout my life.
Another question for you is, have you ever encountered a spirit or maybe a spirit guide that was hostile in any way?
I've encountered spirits that were hostile, not spirit guides that were hostile.
Okay.
I've encountered spirit guides that were difficult because they had an idea that was very different than mine. But, that goes with the territory when you have free will. But I have encountered spirits that were hostile, stuck spirits, if you will. And we actually launched a partnership, a friend of mine and I. It's Into the Light Paranormal, and our goal is to help. We help those who can't help themselves. Our goal is to help cross over any spirits we encounter who are willing to. So
Gotcha.
I believe they need help. I believe they should be assisted.
And that was a question that somebody had said, that Bill had sent and said, can you help a spirit that is trapped between realms to move on?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's probably some of my most rewarding work. And I even, just sitting here talking to you, I tear up over some of the experiences I've had. They've been such a blessing to help return these souls back to the love that is waiting for them.
Do you encounter a lot of lost souls? I mean, that's the one thing that I find interesting is when we talk, to paranormal investigators, especially psychics that are used on paranormal investigation teams, talk about moving people to the light.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems like some of these spirits, ghosts, whatever we want to call them, maybe they like to hang out where they're at, because it seems like we hear about, hauntings in particular. Here in Utah, there's a place, the old Tooele hospital is over in Tooele, Utah. It's the next valley over to the west. And there's a place called Asylum 49. Started out as it's basically the old Tooele hospital. It started out as kind of a thing that was used around Halloween for a scary place, like a haunted house, if you will. And then paranormal investigators started doing investigations, and now they do public investigations. And they talk about like a little girl that's there, a young girl that actually passed away at the hospital many, many years ago, I think back in the 1950s, and yet the presence of this girl is felt almost by everybody that walks through the door and goes through the investigation. So while some psychics locally have talked about helping her move on to the light, it seems like she likes to stay just where she's at and interact with humans as much as she can.
And there is a difference between ghost and spirit in my terms of definition. Okay. A ghost is someone who has not gone into the light and basically is stuck. A spirit has crossed over and has the ability to come back and experience this realm. And they can kind of pop back and forth as they choose. And they may be dealing with a spirit rather than a ghost if she has been crossed over. But, yeah, I've encountered situations where this ghost has not desired to move on. And the metaphor that I use, if you found a 5-year-old lost on a city street, you wouldn't leave the child unattended. You would look for that child's parent, and if you couldn't find, you would look for an authority figure. So I liken ghosts to being lost children who are in need of being returned to that parental love and care. And if I can't cross them over myself, the one thing I do is I do not leave until they have an angel attached to them that they are aware of, until they know that they physically have an angel touching them. And then I'm comfortable leaving. And then I get notification, sometimes that they choose to move on very quickly. Sometimes it takes a while for them to build confidence and trust in that angel. But I don't leave until they are fully aware that there is an angel there, literally hands-on with them.
Very interesting. With your gifts, Kimberly, here, let me throw this one out you. Get your thoughts on this. This may be out in left field, but what do you think about this this airplane that's missing, this MH370, the Malaysia flight?
Couple of things. First thing I got before it was ever even announced that it had done it, I got that plane went up very, very high. I do not get that it came back down. And a lot of other psychics I've talked to have the same feeling.
Okay, so what do you mean by went up? Define that.
It feels like it whether it was flown up or it was sucked up, it went up into our atmosphere a lot higher than it should have been.
Do you believe it?
Number one. Number two, by the time it actually broke the news, the cover-up was already fully in place.
Do you think that it's crashed, or do you think that it is somewhere else, maybe not of this world?
My initial gut feeling is I don't think we're going to find it. I don't think we're going to find it. We've
done a couple of segments on the show just talking about it, and people have called in, and it is an interesting one. I think what's really sad is that a lot of people have kind of lost sight that 239 people are missing, right. Wherever they may be. And, of course, the satellite photos of all the different debris in the ocean. I guess the one good thing is that a lot of the different countries have pulled together in looking to search for through the debris, but they're finding it's nothing more than just garbage and trash. Right. Is definitely doused the hopes of many people. It's a strange one. It really is. It's a really weird one.
Yeah, and how do roughly 250 people disappear with today's technology and with our 24/7 connectivity? How do they disappear without somebody getting, a text, right. A picture, a phone call, something out?
Yeah. I think there's a few of the conspiracy theories. I know the one that I had some interest in is supposedly some person that was on the plane who works for IBM supposedly sent some sort of text message with a picture embedded in it. I kind of think that is a little bit of I don't think that's true, but It is interesting. It is very, very interesting. I just hope for the families. That's the sad part about this whole thing, is that there are so many families that or they have loved ones that were on that flight and they just don't know where they are or what's happened to them.
Yeah, and for that, and for any tragedy that I encounter, I tell people, when you're in that space, just hold a space of peace and comfort for the survivors.
Right.
None of us makes it out of this alive. That's not morbid or morose. That's just the fact of the matter. And it's the survivors who have the struggle. So hold a place of peace and, hold a place of love and comfort and healing for them.
Right, exactly. We've got the 2 hours went way too quick, and
I know.
Thank you I hope we can get you back on again and talk about more stuff. Why don't you give our listeners, now you have a radio program, why don't you go ahead and put that out there for people so they can tune in and listen to you?
Absolutely. It is Lessons in Joyful Living. I'm Monday through Friday, live at 10 a.m. Pacific time. You can find me on iTunes on demand, and you can either go through my website, KimberlyRinaldi.com, or you can go to lijlradio.com, and that'll take you directly to the site. And Lessons in Joyful Living, we talk about the Mind, Body, Spirit Collective and share other people's lessons, because I think it's important. Again, if one can, all can. So that's what I do, and that's why I do it.
Well, that's and the help that you give people is outstanding. And again, the things that you've talked about are definitely eye-opening. Kimberly, thank you so much for being here tonight. Get yourself some rest. We'll stay in touch. We need to get you back on because there's so much more to talk about in this.
My pleasure. I look forward to it. Pat, thank you so much for having me. It's been an absolute treat.
Thank you so much, Kimberly. Have a good night. Get some rest, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yes.
Take
Bye-bye.
care. Good night. Bye-bye.